Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're anything like me, you love to really get to grips with complicated topics and you want to do it quickly. So today we're going to jump right in and tackle something I'm really curious about. Yugami correction. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, it's definitely caught my eye too. I mean, it seems to be a fresh perspective on like the way our bodies are aligned and how that affects the way we move. It's definitely intriguing.
Absolutely. And to help us unravel all of this, we've got a whole bunch of really interesting material. Like we've got some stuff on muscle physiology and how our brains learn new movements. We've even got some insights from traditional practices like Sai Tai, which we'll get to in a bit. But the big question for this deep dive is, what exactly is Yugami correction? What kind of science might back it up? And maybe most importantly, why should you even care?
Right, right. It's all about connecting the dots, isn't it? Seeing how these different pieces fit together. And hopefully at the end of this, we'll have a clearer picture of what Yugami correction is all about and why it might matter to how we understand our own bodies and like our overall well-being.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is Yugami? The stuff we've got on Yugami correction describes it as kind of like these structural misalignments in our bodies. And it's not just about slouching, right? It's something much more fundamental.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. It's not the kind of posture problem you can just fix by sitting up straight. It's more like these subtle underlying imbalances that can build up over time.
Yeah.
And the idea behind Yugami correction is that we can use specific, like hands-on techniques and carefully chosen exercises to kind of nudge the body back towards better alignment.
Interesting. So it's not about forcing the body into a certain position. It's more like guiding it, helping it to find its own natural balance.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And the potential benefits they're talking about are pretty impressive. Like, yeah, it might help you look better, but they're also saying it could improve your overall health, how easily you move, even how you feel in general.
Right. So it's really about optimizing the way your body works. Now, thinking about this from a biological perspective, there are a couple of really interesting things in our sources that jump out at me. One is this concept of the muscle length tension relationship. It sounds pretty basic, but maybe there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, there's actually a lot going on there. What this concept tells us is that the strength of a muscle, how much force it can generate, isn't fixed. It actually changes depending on how long or short the muscle is when it contracts.
Right, it makes sense. It's kind of like, I don't know, pulling on a rubber band. There's a point where it's stretched just right to give you the most power, but if it's too loose or too tight, you don't get as much snap.
Exactly. There's this sweet spot, an optimal length, where everything inside the muscle is lined up perfectly to produce the most force. And, we've even got research showing this happening at a microscopic level. There's this study, JEB 215020.pdf, that looked at muscle fibers in mice. They actually measured the length of these tiny structures called sarcomeres, and they found that the length directly impacted how much power the muscle could produce.
Wow, so even at that tiny scale, length really matters. It makes you wonder how these little misalignments in our bodies, even if we don't notice them, could be affecting how our muscles work.
Right. And if your body is out of whack, some muscles might be constantly stretched too long or held too short, which means they're probably not working at their best. So instead of trying to muscle through things, Yugami correction is saying, hey, let's get your body back into alignment so your muscles can do their job more efficiently. It's not about brute force, it's about getting your body into its power zone, so to speak. And that could be a way more efficient way to move, potentially reducing strain and, actually boosting your strength.
Makes sense. So it's about getting the most out of your muscles by putting them in the best possible position to do their work. But how does your body actually learn to move in this new aligned way? I mean, it's one thing to understand it intellectually, but how do you actually make it stick?
Well, that's where motor learning comes in. This is all about how we learn new movement patterns and make those changes last.
Right. Like, how does my brain actually learn to coordinate all the muscles and joints to move in this new efficient way?
Exactly. You probably know this already, but there are actually different ways we learn movements. We can either consciously think about the steps involved, or we can learn through trial and error, like by feeling what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. Like when you first learn to ride a bike, you're super focused on every little movement. But after a while, you just do it without even thinking.
Right. Our sources call these different approaches instructive learning and reinforcement learning. With instructive learning, we use our conscious brain, the prefrontal cortex, to follow instructions and think about each step. It's super important at the beginning when you're first learning something new, but for something like Yugami correction, where you want the changes to really stick, reinforcement learning becomes crucial. This is where you learn by doing and by feeling the results of your movements.
So it's like the more you practice, the better your body gets at figuring out how to move efficiently. And the less you have to think about it, it becomes more intuitive.
Precisely. And the research is showing that this kind of learning, through feedback and repetition, leads to more lasting changes in the brain and body. It's like building muscle memory, but for efficient movement.
Now, thinking about those different stages of learning, like going from that initial kind of clumsy phase where you're really concentrating to eventually being able to move smoothly and automatically, it makes you wonder if the exercises in Yugami correction are designed to work with those different stages of learning, right?
I think you're onto something there. It makes sense that the way the exercises are structured could help people progress through those stages of learning, ultimately making those new efficient movement patterns more automatic. And the feedback you get along the way, whether it's about the results of your movements or, the specifics of your technique, that feedback plays a big role in how quickly and how well you learn. Even just mentally practicing can help.
That's fascinating. It really highlights the importance of working with a knowledgeable practitioner who can provide the right kind of guidance and feedback. And speaking of individual differences, something that really struck me in the research is the idea that we don't all learn these motor skills in the same way. Some people might pick things up quickly, while others might need more time and practice. This seems especially relevant for an approach like Yugami correction, which seems to be very personalized.
Absolutely. There's this tendency to think that everyone learns the same way. But the research is clear that there's a huge amount of variation in how we acquire and refine motor skills and, yeah, how we respond to different training methods. So cookie cutter approach probably won't cut it. We need to understand these individual differences, whether they're due to our physical build, our inherent abilities, even our attitudes towards learning, if we want to tailor interventions effectively.
Right, so it's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique learning style and their own unique body. It's not one size fits all. And the research lists so many potential factors that can influence how we learn, it's mind-boggling. Everything from our physiology to our temperament, it really emphasizes the complexity of human movement.
It does. And it reminds us that we can't directly observe someone's abilities. We have to infer them from how they perform. So watching how someone moves and adapts during Yugami correction practice can give us valuable clues about their specific learning process and their underlying capabilities. It's not just about achieving a certain posture, it's about how efficiently and effectively they can move and maintain that posture during practice. That focus on the process really aligns with the idea of personalized adjustments and exercises in Yugami correction.
Yeah, it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey. It makes you realize that there's no quick fix. It's about understanding the individual and finding what works best for them. Now, one of the things that I found really intriguing in the material on Yugami correction is the mention of Seitai. It describes it as this traditional Japanese bodywork practice that involves bone setting. And we actually have a source that goes into quite a bit of detail about Seitai, which I think could shed some light on Yugami correction as well.
Oh, absolutely. Seitai is fascinating. At its core is this belief in vital intelligence, this innate ability of the body to regulate itself and heal through natural, spontaneous movements. Like your body has this inner wisdom that knows how to move towards balance.
So instead of seeing the body as something that needs to be fixed from the outside, Seitai sees it as something that has the potential to heal itself.
Exactly. And I think that's where the connection with Yugami correction might lie. It's not about imposing an external solution. It's about facilitating the body's own inherent drive towards balance. The founder of Seitai, Hirochika Noguchi, and a key figure in its development, Katsumi Mamin, really emphasized tapping into this inner wisdom. They even talked about this idea of the spontaneous I, which is like the body's natural intelligence, versus the dressed self, which is influenced by our culture and conscious control.
So it's like we need to peel back those layers of tension and habits that we've accumulated over time and rediscover our body's natural ability to move freely and efficiently.
That's a great way to put it. And the Seitai source also talks about this fundamental to and fro movement, a kind of tension relaxation cycle they call AT, which is seen as absolutely essential for life.
Interesting. So it's like a constant ebb and flow, a kind of rhythmic dance between tension and release that keeps the body functioning properly.
Right. It's not just about physical movement. It's seen as this fundamental rhythm that affects everything, from circulation to even emotional states. And when this rhythm gets disrupted, that's when problems arise. They even identified 5 basic movements: vertical, frontal, lateral, rotary, and central. And they believe that these movements are linked to different aspects of our well-being, both physical and psychological.
So maybe the structural misalignments that Yugami correction addresses could be seen as blockages or imbalances in these fundamental movements, like the body's natural rhythm is being restricted in some way.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. And then there's this practice within Saitai called Katsugen Undo, which is all about spontaneous movement. It's like giving your body permission to move however it needs to tap into that self-regulating capacity.
So it's like letting go of conscious control and letting the body's wisdom guide the movement. It sounds very freeing.
It is. And the idea of Yuki, this kind of intuitive touch and communication of vital energy, also plays a role in Saitai. It suggests that there might be a very subtle and personalized aspect to the manual techniques used in practices like Yugami correction. But at the heart of Seitai is this deep trust in the body's ability to heal itself.
It's a very holistic perspective. And speaking of holistic approaches, our final source looks at integrative and complementary health practices, things like acupuncture, massage, chiropractic, and how they're being used to teach about the body.
What's interesting about this is that it reflects a growing recognition of the interconnectedness of different systems within the body. It's moving away from this idea of treating isolated symptoms and towards a more integrated understanding of health and well-being.
Yeah, and many of these practices, as well as Saitai, really emphasize that mind-body connection. They're not just looking at the physical body, they're considering the whole person. It's about understanding the individual and their unique needs.
Absolutely. And this shift towards more holistic and patient-centered approaches to health is definitely gaining momentum. It suggests that Yugami correction, which seems to draw on both scientific understanding of movement and the wisdom of traditional practices, could be part of this exciting evolution in how we think about health and well-being.
So taking a step back and looking at everything we've covered, we've explored how this fundamental principle of muscle physiology, the length-tension relationship, highlights the importance of proper alignment for efficient movement. We've delved into the fascinating complexities of motor learning and how our brains and bodies adapt to new movement patterns, recognizing that it's a highly individual process. And we've explored the insights of Saitai, with its deep respect for the body's innate wisdom and its emphasis on restoring natural movement and balance.
It's like we've been piecing together a puzzle, looking at Yugami correction from different angles, the biomechanics, the learning process, the holistic perspective. And what emerges is this picture of an approach that considers not just the physical structure, but also the individual's capacity for learning and adaptation, and this deeper understanding of the body's innate drive towards balance.
It's really thought-provoking, and it leaves us with a question for you to ponder. Could Yugami correction be a way to tap into this intricate interplay between our physical structure, our body's inherent movement intelligence, and our amazing ability to learn and adapt? What might be the possibilities if we actively sought to optimize this alignment and movement through such a holistic and personalized approach?
It's a question worth exploring. And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to keep digging. Delve into the worlds of motor learning, muscle physiology, traditional practices like Saitai. There's so much to discover about this incredible machine we call the human body. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring.